Okay, next up we have the Due Process Clause, which is found in both the Fifth Amendment and the 14th Amendment. Now, why was it in the Fifth and then not again until the 14th, and why is it in both of them? Well, the Due Process Clause itself says that the government is not allowed to deprive somebody of their life, liberty, or property or pursuit of happiness without due process of law, which means that they must be provided with an attorney and a speedy trial and a fair trial and a public trial and with a jury and all of those good things. So in the Fifth Amendment due process clause was just aimed at the federal government. So what happened was over time, the states would say, well, that doesn't apply to us. So then they had to make another amendment, being the 14th Amendment, that said now the states aren't allowed to deprive a person of life, liberty, pursuit of happiness without due process. So some of these things are for sure repetitive, but it's because they needed to make sure we were protected on both the state and federal level. But there are things called legislative actions, which are laws that set boundaries on all of our freedoms. So freedom of speech, you can say what you want when you want, so to speak, unless you commit something like slander, which would mean that you can't speak falsely and salaciously about somebody and give them a bad reputation and all those things, or false advertisements. You can't have a product or whatever would be on a commercial or an advertisement and say false things about it, because that's false advertising and that goes against your freedom of speech. Okay, 14th Amendment. We have a little political cartoon here with Uncle Sam there in the middle, being the United States, with a paper in his hand that says detention without due process. He's saying, I'd like to report a case of identity theft. And then he says, someone stole my sense of justice for all. And that would mean that you don't have your justice and your sense of freedom if you are held in detention or in jail or prison without your due process. So this is showing that because of the Fifth and 14th Amendment, the due process clause, you have to have due process or be allowed your rights in court, that without those things, then you could be held in detention without due process, but luckily because of those amendments, you can't. Okay, that is it for now. Go ahead and get started on your key terms and people.